Hi, I'm Nina, this is Intrinsic, and today I'm answering someone's question about how I homeschooled when my daughter was 5. When my daughter was 4 and approaching kindergarten, I started feeling that it was such a dilemma. She was so ahead in some areas, and in other areas she was behind, and I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out with kindergarten. But I had some really close friends that were planning on homeschooling or already homeschooled, and they pointed me into the direction of a program that is kind of a liaison between a charter school and the family so that I could custom build and homeschool and get reimbursed for it. And I decided that that's what we would do, at least for kindergarten, and that would leave the door open for first grade. And I'm so glad I did, because it was so valuable to be able to tailor that. And I was worried about having an only child home alone without social, especially because those tended to be the areas where she was further behind. But I was able to find a community around me. I had no idea that there were so many people who were off the beaten path and was such a support, and also allowed us to do co-ops and things that were group settings and allow her to really progress a lot. When I got this question, I was thinking about her learning logs. We were documenting every week. In order to get that reimbursement, we document every week what we were doing, and I had the pictures, and she had told what activities we had done, and I was so excited to share that, but she didn't feel comfortable sharing that. So I'm going to try and do the best I can without sharing pictures and videos of her at that age. I do have on here record of what I had put as my course description for me to get reimbursed. So it will make it a pretty good outline for me to tell you what we did. For her elementary math in kindergarten year, we tried out Right Start Math, which I really liked the way it evolved and progressed and the way it described things, and I was liking that, but she just was so free-spirited and so curious, and we were able to do it. A lot of times I would, instead of doing it with the manipulatives that they gave when we were outside, I would be counting the leaves or sticks or whatever she was collecting, and or instead of just doing yes, no, when we were eating breakfast, I'd have her drink if it was yes and eat if it was no, or so we could kind of make it a little bit more fun, but it just felt like I was adapting that so much to fit her needs, and that it was easier to find what she was doing and just make sure that we're making that educational by pointing out things, narrating things, counting things. As I do math, we do math all of the time, just narrating what's going on in my head, so she's gaining what that process is and why it's applicable, what it's used for. I also put that I would use math apps, and I do have a video on some of the math apps we use now. The ones I had listed at the time were Quick Math Junior, which I did talk about that in there, Hungry Fish, which was a fun one. It's only addition, it's not super deep. I think it stopped working with our iPad, but still is a fine app. We just don't use it very much. And then I put Math Seeds, which just seemed to not connect with her. But I've heard a lot of people love it. So if you're curious about that, go ahead and look that up. For math, I also got reimbursed for manipulatives such as pattern blocks, lacing beads, balance scale, interlocking cubes, magnetic stick and stack. All of the shape kind of geometry stuff starts from exploring those things, and number sense comes from having a physical relationship with things and understanding how those numbers come together. And she struggled more with getting that rhythm of things, and so I wanted to make sure that we are having as much of that tactile kind of learning. The other thing that I wrote on here is that we would be using daily situations like recipes, lists, schedules, charts, graphs, navigating locations, using media and numbers. Like I said before, just narrating what we naturally do. And when we're cooking, taking the time to, even though it takes longer to involve them, and later in life when you are doing abstract math, if you have that experience to base it on, it goes much better. Even with every subject, not just math. I remember in college, when I was learning about something that I had experience with, it seemed to just connect. Though it had, there were already synapses that it could just connect to, and it just seems more solid. So remember that those early years, just make it meaningful. The next subject was elementary language arts. I put that we're going to read books, read signs, read mail, read charts, notice grammatical patterns, and navigate locations and media by reading. Again, this is just what we naturally do. We loved books. We were already naturally reading all of the time. She was a really good reader at that time. But just like most people learn multiplication and then division, even though they're related, it's a totally different skill. She was reading really well, but the writing, the inverse of that skill wasn't there yet. In fact, it was pretty hard for her. She was still writing full-fisted and not with the pincer grip. So a lot of what I put in here to get reimbursed for was strengthening those fine motor skills. I put writing, drawing, whatever it was, using paper apps, use letter construction set. I think handwriting without tears might be the name of it. It has the same sort of thing, but I just found something on Amazon. I'll try and link that below. That was a letter formation. Knowing that her writing was hard, so was her spatial awareness. So being able to play with those shapes and move them and not have it set in stone until she got it, it made it easier and less anxious for her to figure out how to form those letters. We also did strengthening fine motor using cutting, squeezing glue, clothespins, tongs, etc. All of those things that give her the control. I wanted it to be playful. I feel like I started writing before I was ready, and so I still, when I am writing something, my hand position is pretty funky and it's not the best, but when I am switched over to something that is more creative, my hand naturally goes to the pincer grip, and I feel like that's because I learned before my hand was ready. I ingrained the bad skills because I didn't have the motor control to do that, and so I just wanted that to be something that we work on naturally and without a lot of stress about it. Another component that is in language arts that I said, storytelling and comprehension. So trying to retell events and stories, act out stories, illustrate stories, make books. A lot of times when I would read, I would have her just play, and she would naturally, without me prompting her, she would naturally just create that scene. And I feel like that is a very age-appropriate way for her to show that she is comprehending what she is learning, and it actually deepens that learning for her. For us, we were able to pick an elective for the third subject, and I actually picked social studies because, like I said before, those social things, we needed a lot of exposure. So I wanted my social studies not to be what you think of normally as social studies, but mostly that social emotional stuff along with the regular stuff. So I put that we would build a sense of community and appreciation for diversity by studying history, geography, culture, build an understanding, and memorize texts with use of books, games, videos, music, field trips to museums, landmarks, and social settings. Really, I just wanted her to be able to experience it. Even she was very timid at the time and she didn't interact very much, but even if she was in an environment where she felt comfortable to be on the sidelines and observe, I felt like she was able to catch on to the patterns, the social patterns, and eventually and now she feels confident to join in. So A huge one that we did is the field trips. Because we were able to get reimbursed, it was really nice that we got a membership to a local museum. We also looked online and found that a lot of places have a homeschool free day, and so we just would bounce around to wherever the free day was, and we had our membership at the one. I really wanted her in social settings. When I wrote this, I didn't realize about the co-ops where people get together and teach each other, and it was really great. The co-op that was more formal, she still seemed to be a little bit tense, but the one that was a little bit more playful worked really well for her. She did really well as long as I was in the room. And the following year we were able to have it so I didn't have to be in the room anymore. I also put in there that we would study culture, development, and psychology to enable stronger empathy, cooperation, regulating, and problem solving. Build healthy sense of self and stronger connections with others by studying customs and participating in rituals. It was really awesome. Not every program is going to be like this, but the program we used is so open-ended, and we really were able to just do the things that we felt were needed. If you're interested in my other resources, you can check out my spreadsheet that I have linked below, or our other YouTube videos.
If you found this video helpful, subscribe to Intrinsic, because meaningful learning is driven by desire from within.